Hello, welcome to Bored and Confused, where I review shows based on two criteria. One, was I bored? Two, was I confused? Today's show is The Last 5 Years by Jason Robert Brown, playing at the Hudson Theater. Now, as always, please like, comment, and subscribe. It really helps me to grow this channel. So I'm excited to talk about this show. I saw the premiere of this show Off-Broadway in 2002, right after I had moved to New York. My voice teacher gave me Shiksa Goddess to learn, or as I called it, Shiksa Goddess, not knowing how to pronounce these Jewish words. And I then went down and saw the production that only ran for 2 months at the Minetta Lane Theater, starring Sherie, Rene Scott, and Norbert Leo Butz. And it was directed by Daisy Prince, the daughter of famed producer and director Hal Prince. And I really liked the show when I saw it, but more than the show, I was really most impressed by the performers, Sherie, Rene Scott, and especially Norbert Leo Butz. This is when he was just starting to rise and really become a Broadway star. And his performance was so incredible. And as an aspiring musical theater performer, I just was watching him in awe. So The Last 5 Years was written by Jason Robert Brown. It is an autobiographical musical that he wrote about a 5-year relationship he had as Jason Robert Brown was coming into his own. He just had Songs for a New World had been successful, and he'd gotten hired to write the music and lyrics for a new musical called Parade that was going to premiere at Lincoln Center. And so during this time, Jason was married to a woman named Teresa O'Neill, and they got divorced, and he processed his feelings by writing this show called The Last 5 Years. There are only 2 actors in The Last 5 Years. There's Jamie and Cathy. Jamie is clearly inspired by Jason Robert Brown himself, an aspiring novelist who is finding success and moving forward with his career, and Cathy, who is a struggling actress who is not able to get out of summer stock theater and really find her footing. And this character is clearly inspired by Jason's wife, Teresa. This show has an interesting structure in that we watch Jamie's journey through the 5 years of his relationship with Cathy, starting when it began to when it falls apart. But at the same time, we're watching Cathy's journey going backwards. On paper, this seems like a really interesting idea, but in practice, it is really fraught because it can get very confusing. Now, they've given us certain things like she goes to Ohio, he buys some flowers, there's a note he leaves, his book signing. We get these little moments that are talked about by the characters that kind of bring it together, but we're never really sure exactly where we are in time. So not only is the show in danger of being confusing because of the crossing timelines, we also lose a lot of dramatic effect because the actors are very emotionally talking to the other actor, but the other actor is not there, so we don't get to see their response. And my third issue, and this is an issue I talk about with a lot of shows, is we need to be rooting for a character. And the issue I have with Last 5 Years is we know right from the start, the first song is I'm Still Hurting, and we know that Cathy's been hurt. So then we've got a love story of sorts, but we know it's going to end unhappily. So we can't really root for this couple. Once we know where we're going, it's just more like a history lesson. We're going to see the history of this relationship, and we don't really have anyone to root for. And that can be dangerous. Now, fortunately, this show is only 90 minutes, so it's not asking too much of its audience to go on this journey. Let me talk about Jason Robert Brown for 1 sec. I'm a huge fan. He really exemplifies that contemporary musical theater sound of combining pop and rock with musical theater. Jason Robert Brown is not only a songwriter, he is a composer. He is an orchestrator. He is an arranger. He is a musician through and through. I'm just so impressed by his work. It's so deep and so layered, and he really is going for a very specific sound with the orchestrations and everything. Jason Robert Brown, in each one of these songs, is really writing a one-act play, and this is what I think he does so brilliantly. Each song can really stand on its own, and this is why songs from this show and a lot of his songs are mainstays in cabaret and concerts and even auditions. People love using these songs. Another reason people love these songs is Jason Robert Brown is a singer, and He knows how to write for a voice, and these songs soar. They're so singable. They're so fun to sing. They're so enjoyable to perform. And so when I watch Last 5 Years, I don't look at the whole of the piece. I really like to focus on each individual song because each song really is a one-act play in itself. And I love every song in the show except for the Shmuel song. The Shmuel song, I get confused by it. I don't know what it's trying to do. It's trying to tell a story about a Jewish dressmaker, and I think, oh, is he buying her a dress? Did he make her a dress? No, it's just a pep talk. Totally. That song, every time I hear it, it goes over my head. It's so kitschy in its Jewish style that it's not my favorite song in the show. But Jason Robert Brown excels at writing love ballads and love duets. He really is great at that. And there's a lot of ballads in this show. When you have a show full of ballads, you have the danger of losing momentum and boring your audience. So when I saw this Off-Broadway, Daisy directed it very simply. With the set just had one piece that was like a wedding floor with all these chairs, but it was turned on its side, and it was this big circle in the background with these chairs kind of like glued to it. And then the rest of the show is very simple. They just delivered their songs one at a time, and then when they came together, there was a beautiful duet. And I thought it worked, mainly to show off these amazing performers. The Broadway production, directed by Whitney White, is using more set pieces, costume changes. It's much more elaborate, as you would expect for Broadway. The show sounds great, and the orchestra is on stage. It's raised up, and they have moments where a soloist, a cello or whatever, will actually come to the corner of the orchestra pit, although it's an orchestra balcony, and will be highlighted for some moments. So Whitney White makes an interesting choice in this production in that originally the actors were just separate, then they came together for the wedding, and then they were separate. Whitney has tried to incorporate the actors in one another's songs. So sometimes Cathy will be singing, and then the scrim will rise, and Jamie will say one line, the scrim goes back down, she keeps singing, and then it rises again. It happens like 3 times. And then she has moments where an actor will just appear during someone's song, and then she has, for the Shmuel song, you know, my favorite song, she actually has Cathy there, so Jamie has someone to sing the Shmuel song to. This did not really work for me. I think she was doing this to try to create more drama so that we could see someone reacting, especially in the Shmuel song. I think Whitney went, ooh, this song is a tough one. You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna add Cathy into the scene so that we just can hopefully give it more context. But it's weird because it's this long song, and Cathy is just sitting there listening to him, and she's kind of interacting, but she never speaks, which is so strange. You're like, why is she mute? She's not mute in the rest of the show. And then also when she brings in the other actors during the song of the other actor, I never really understand what time period they're in. So like when she brings Jamie in for a second during one of Cathy's songs, I'm like, is Jamie in the same time period as Cathy, or is he in his own time trajectory? And is he in the time trajectory of the last song he's saying, or is he in the time trajectory of the next song he's going to sing? So although I think that was designed to give more drama, it just created a lot of confusion for me because I never really understood, with the exception of the Shmuel song where I understood that Cathy was actually there in the moment. The rest of the time, I can't tell is Cathy upset because she didn't get the audition, or is she upset because her husband is cheating on her? I didn't know which it was. All right, let's talk about the performances. Now, these actors had a very high bar to live up to because I had Sherie Rene Scott and the amazing Norbert Butz in my head. Now, we've got, in the role of Cathy, we have Adrienne Warren, and in the role of Jamie, we have Jonas. I felt Adrienne Warren fared the best because she has more what I would call a musical theater sounding voice. She's got the lows and the highs. She's got a lot of different colors to her voice. She is very invested. She's very personable. I saw the joy. I saw the sorrow. She's a good actor. So I really enjoyed her performance. Jonas is really good with pitch. His pitch is spot on. He is a tenor, and I always feel like the role of Jamie really is better suited for a baritone because it goes low in places. And Norbert Butz is more of a baritone, and I felt that when Nick had the lower stuff, it kind of would get lost. It was difficult to hear. It didn't have a lot of power, and he was better on the high stuff. Although, interestingly, Nick struggles a lot with closed vowels. So he, especially in Shiksagadis, he does this little trick, which is smart, but a little distracting. If he's singing a closed vowel like me and he can't hold it out for the full length, he'll go like me, whoa. And he'll do like a whoa on an open vowel to kind of fill up the space. He did it a lot in Shiksagadis, and I was like, oh no, are we going to do this in every song? He didn't. He just mainly did it in that. But he would do it whenever he had trouble with a closed vowel. But you know what? You do what you got to do to sing the material. And I thought Nick sounded great singing this role. His acting was not bad. It was never bad. But I didn't feel like he ever really did anything more than what was on the page. Whereas my remembrance of Norbert is just, oh, he brought so much humor and so much energy. And his vocals could get gritty and grungy, and he'd bend notes, and it's just so great. I didn't see the movie, so I can't compare Anna Kendrick and Jeremy Jordan, who's a great vocalist. But to me, Norbert Leo Butz owns this role. He did it in Chicago, and then he came to New York with it, and he's on that recording and that album. He's the man. So I enjoyed Nick, but I'm still loving the Norb. All right. I found it interesting in the middle of the show, the moment where they do come together. It wasn't as powerful in this production because, as I mentioned earlier, the director had already combined Jamie and Cathy in some scenes. So when they finally did come together, it didn't feel like so surprising. And also she did an interesting thing. She brought a bed in, and Cathy's got her shoes off. She's in a wedding dress, which is not a very beautiful wedding dress. Some of the costuming choices for Cathy in this production are sus, as the kids are saying. I don't know, this wedding dress was not it for me. There's also a moment where she says this is a lyric in the song where she says she stole a jacket or a shirt from the costume shop, and she says it makes her look like Daisy May, who I assume is a reference to Lil Abner, Beverly Hillbillies? No, that's Ellie Mae. I assume it's Lil Abner. And the jacket or shirt she was wearing looked nothing like Lil Abner, so confused there. Yeah, Cathy's costumes, she didn't always look great in them. So, I don't know. Also, the set design is very odd to me. There's a bunch of miniature New York buildings, and one of them slides forward and they stand on it. It's about just below waist height. And then there's a platform where they've got like Jamie's office on it. And then some other pieces come in. A trunk comes in. Different other set pieces come in at times. And I get we're on Broadway, so we feel like we need a set. Oh, there's a little flower shop, which is normal size. And it didn't feel cohesive to me. And that apartment building, which I assume represents the apartment they lived in New York, they step up into it and step down for it, but it is this awkward height. It's hard to step up on it without looking like you're climbing up a mountain. And there's one moment at the end where Adrienne steps off of it and she's in heels, and I'm like, don't break your foot, because it's just a little too high where she kind of has to jump, and she's singing. There's some awkward moments with this set and some awkward moments with the costumes. So yeah, not my favorite. Another interesting thing, originally when this was done, Lauren Kennedy, Irish, Sherie Rene Scott, Irish, the character Teresa O'Neill, Irish. So Cathy's usually an Irish woman. Casting her as a black woman, I think, is a fine choice, but there are some references musically where there's an Irish jig, and they've taken all of the Irish references out of the dialogue. And they're actually, before Shiksagadis was written, there was another song about this Irish lass that he fell in love with. I think it was giving too much personal information about Teresa, his ex-wife, and so I think he rewrote it and wrote Shiksagadis, which I think is a better song. I think it shares the same bridge. But anyhow, so all of the references to her being Irish are excised from the script, but musically they're still there. So I felt like when he reorchestrated, he probably could have taken a look at the Irish references, because they're a little like, is she Irish? I don't think she's Irish, even though her name, I believe, is Cathy Hyatt. So let's wrap this up. Bored and confused. Was I bored? I do get a little bored with this show just because it's a lot of ballads. There's not a through line for the entire show that I can really follow in a cohesive way, because I get confused about where we are in the time of how the songs relate to the songs that we heard 30 minutes earlier. Did that song come before that song that Jamie sang, or does it come after? There's a lot of moments where I get pulled out of this show because I'm trying to figure out the timeline of it. But like I said earlier, if you just watch this show and enjoy the amazing songwriting of Jason Robert Brown, that's the reason to see the show, because these songs are great, with the exception of that one. And I just enjoyed, these are very capable singers, especially really enjoyed Adrienne's performances. Nick, I just want a little more acting in there. But, you know, Nick Jonas is a name, and he has a lot of Broadway credits, and he's going to sell some tickets. And this really is, let's be honest, the last 5 years really is an off-Broadway show. It's just two people, and they sing a bunch of solos. It's on Broadway because they were able to snag Nick Jonas. So we have to be thankful that he is involved with this production so that it can have its Broadway premiere and have a wider audience. I hope you go out and check out the last 5 years. Oh, let me do tickets real quick. How did I get my ticket? I did the Rush tickets on the Today Tix app. And guys, I got a great seat because the way it works, at least for this show, the Today Tix app, you buy the ticket, but then you pick it up from the box office. So the box office gives you whatever the best available is. And for me, I got second row balcony, and in the Hudson Theater, the balcony's not that high. And the seats are set up perfectly where my seat was between two other seats. I was center, seat 109B, center stage. I had the best view of this show. For $45, the Today Tix app was the way to go. I hope you go out and check out the last 5 years.
Don't bore me, don't confuse me. If you do, then you'll lose me. Don't wanna drift away, wanna stay inside the play.